The storm screamed over Seattle, rain lashing Marcus Kane's SUV windshield as the solitary billionaire squinted through the downpour. Beside St. Luke's Church, a sodden cardboard box trembled in the dark alley. Marcus's heart pounded as he leapt out and discovered a newborn girl, her lips tinged blue, clutching a silver seagull talisman. A smear of ink on a slipping note whispered, "Love her." He named her Nora, his light. 10 years later, a mysterious letter and a chance encounter with a flight attendant revealed the truth. Who had abandoned Nora, and why? All right, dear viewers, prepare for a story that will leave you speechless. Take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly connect with what I'm about to share. And drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see you tuning in from every corner of the globe. 10 years after that fateful night, Marcus Kane, a devoted single father, sat aboard a flight from Seattle to Boston, his heart heavy with unease. Beside him, Nora, now a 10-year-old girl with tangled curls, toyed with the silver seagull talisman at her throat, her eyes bright and innocent. A mysterious letter about Nora's legacy had brought them here, stirring in Marcus the memory of the moment he found her small and frozen inside a cardboard box. Nora was now his whole world, yet that letter's cold words had awakened a hidden fear. Who else knew about her? Who dared intrude on their life? Marcus gripped the armrest, eyes flicking to Nora as she sketched in her notebook, as if no secret could touch her. The aircraft shuddered violently. Murmurs of panic rippled through the cabin. Marcus took Nora's hand and forced a reassuring smile, but a strangled cry cut through. Behind him, Sarah Bennett, the flight attendant with deep blue eyes, collapsed into the aisle, clutching her chest, her breath breaking as though strangled. Her face went ashen, her gaze panicked. Marcus, trained in field first aid, acted on instinct. He knelt on the cold floor, gently tilting Sarah's chin to open her airway. His heart pounded not only from the urgency, but from a premonition that this moment held greater meaning. He counted the compressions, steady, precise, sweat beading on his brow. Sarah gasped, drawing air into her lungs. Her trembling hand gripped Marcus's, as though clinging to an invisible lifeline. When Sarah opened her eyes, her stare did not linger on Marcus but fixed on Nora. The seagull talisman gleamed beneath the cabin lights, and Sarah's eyes brimmed with tears, as if an old wound had reopened. She trembled. Her hand tightened around his, not from fear, but as if to anchor a lost memory. "The girl. She's just like—" she whispered, her voice breaking off, as though afraid that finishing the sentence would shatter something. Marcus felt a chill run through him. His heart stuttered. Like whom? That sharp question drilled into his mind. He looked at Sarah, seeking answers in her eyes, but she only shook her head, her expression full of sorrow and secrecy, as though a door had slammed shut. Within Marcus, a silent battle raged. 10 years he had built a safe world for Nora, a world immune to the past, yet Sarah's gaze, filled with longing and regret, pierced his armor. What did she know about Nora? The mysterious letter, this flight, the woman before him. It all felt arranged. Marcus clenched his hand, fingernails biting into his palm, trying to suppress the fear of losing Nora, the terror that this secret might shatter the happiness he had sacrificed everything to protect. Sarah sat up, hastily wiping away tears, striving for calm, but her eyes remained locked on Nora, as if the child were the missing piece of an untold story. She withdrew her hand, fingertips trembling on the service tray, as though trying to conceal the storm within. Nora looked up from her notebook, curiosity in her eyes, oblivious to the undercurrent between the adults. Marcus longed to scoop her into his arms, to shout that no one could ever separate them. But deep down, he knew Sarah held an undeniable truth. Her unfinished words, her anguished gaze, and the talisman at Nora's throat, all fragments of a larger secret. He closed his eyes and drew a deep breath, anchoring himself in the present. Yet his heart had embarked on a new journey, one fraught with uncertainty. Sarah, head bowed, hands entwined, seemed locked in an inner struggle. The cabin fell silent once more, but within Marcus, chaos reigned, as if a seagull had just soared by, leaving behind questions with no answers. In the hotel lobby in Boston, Marcus Kane stood silently. His cold gaze swept over the woman who had just entered. Sarah Bennett, the flight attendant from their journey, appeared in a thin coat, her deep blue eyes carrying a sorrow like a book never opened. Nora, the 10-year-old girl with tangled curls, gripped Marcus's hand. She toyed innocently with the silver seagull talisman at her throat, unaware of the undercurrent between the two adults. This meeting was no coincidence. Marcus felt it in his pounding heart, as though a secret lurked, ready to shatter the world he had built for Nora. After the flight, Sarah's look at Nora, her unfinished words, had planted in him a nameless unease. Now, facing her, he tightened his hold on Nora, anchoring the girl to his reality. They sat in a corner of the hotel cafe. The coffee before Sarah sat cooling, her hands trembling as they clasped the cup. Marcus watched, his emotions roiling. He had spent 10 years protecting Nora. From the moment he found her, small and resilient, inside that cardboard box. She was the only light in his life, a once lonely billionaire. But Sarah, with her eyes full of pain, threatened it all. She drew a deep breath, steeled herself, and pushed across the table an old leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with a seagull. "I am Nora's birth mother," she whispered, her voice breaking, each word a cut. Marcus froze, his breath caught as if struck by an unseen blow. 10 years ago, at 19, forced by a powerful Boston family, Sarah had left Nora, believing it the only way to give her a better life. The journal lay between them. Its yellowed pages held words written for the child I could not keep. Sarah's voice trembled as she explained that she had left Nora the silver seagull talisman, hoping it would guide her to a brighter future. Marcus turned each page with trembling fingers, reading the remorseful confessions of a young woman torn apart by fear and pressure. His heart churned, part anger, part compassion. He remembered the night he found Nora, her tiny hands clutching the talisman as if she had chosen him in that moment. "She is my entire world," he said, his tone hard as if building a wall. Yet inside, he staggered. Sarah was not his enemy, but a mother wrestling with her past, her reddened eyes full of longing and pain. Sarah wiped away her tears, her shaking hand pressed against the table's edge as if to steady herself. She did not demand Nora back. She only wanted to know if her daughter was happy. Her words cut through Marcus's armor like a sweet blade. He glanced at Nora, doodling in her notebook at the next table, her carefree smile a light banishing the darkness. He had sacrificed everything for this life, sleepless nights, abandoned dreams. But Sarah, with her journal and earnest gaze, forced him to confront a truth he did not wish to admit. Nora had the right to know her mother. The fear of losing Nora again rose, choking his chest. He squeezed her hand, his nails digging into his palm, trying to suppress the wave of anger and anxiety. Sarah bowed her head, her fingers threading through her hair as though to hide the storm inside her. She knew she was undeserving of forgiveness, yet in her eyes, when they passed over Nora, burned a desperate hope to reconnect a severed bond. Marcus looked at her, torn between protecting Nora and feeling compassion for the woman before him. The journal, the talisman, and Sarah's truth, pieces of a larger story waiting to be revealed. He closed his eyes, drew a deep breath, anchoring himself in the present. Yet deep within, he knew this meeting had changed everything. Sarah quietly withdrew her hand, fingers interlacing as though preparing for a long journey. In the corner of the cafe, Nora looked up, her innocent smile unaware that this secret would open a new door, one where love and forgiveness awaited. Nora, the 10-year-old with a keen mind and an open heart, sensed the sharp silences between Marcus and Sarah. Though she did not fully understand, her father's pensive gaze and the trembling hands of the woman claiming to be her mother left her unsettled. Every exchanged glance, every hesitant word, felt like invisible ropes pulling her into a battle she never chose. Nora gripped the silver seagull talisman at her throat, as if it might keep her from being swept away. In the hotel room, she sat quietly, doodling in her notebook, but her heart was heavy. She loved Marcus, who had given her a home and a safe world, yet Sarah, with her journal full of painful confessions, had awakened in Nora a longing to know her roots. She was afraid that loving one parent would hurt the other, afraid that she would have to choose. One morning, as pale light filtered through the curtains, Nora made her decision. She could no longer bear the tension. With her heart pounding, she slipped from the room, her small shoes pattered along the hallway. On the desk, she left a drawing, 2 seagulls, one bearing a question mark, beneath which she had scrawled, trembling, "I don't want anyone to choose. I just want to be Nora." The sketch was her silent plea, her way of naming the pain she could not yet express. She tucked Sarah's journal, the one she had secretly read the night before, under her arm and slipped away, seeking a place to hide from the questions choking her. Marcus discovered Nora's absence when morning light revealed her drawing. His heart stopped. He tore through the room, calling her name in a voice thick with panic. Sarah, standing at the door, went pale and clenched her hands, as if the fear of losing Nora again was tearing her apart. They rushed into the street, splitting up to search, guilt weighing on their hearts. Marcus recalled the night he found Nora, small yet fierce, and the terror that he might not be strong enough to protect her surged again, constricting his chest. Sarah ran alongside him, tear-blinded, reliving the past. This time, Nora had walked away. They reached Old North Church, where hotel staff said Nora had headed. The heavy wooden door creaked as Marcus pushed it open. There, in the front pew, sat Nora, curled into herself, clutching the journal, the stained glass light wrapping her like an invisible blanket. Marcus dropped to his knees, his strong hands trembling as he enfolded Nora in his arms. He felt her pain like a blade piercing his own heart. Nora looked up, tear-brimmed, lips pressed tight as she fought back sobs. She had read Sarah's journal, the remorseful entries of a young mother who lacked the courage to stay. "I know she's my mom," she whispered, her voice cracking. "But I'm afraid that if I love her, you'll be sad." Those words cut Marcus to the core. He held Nora tighter, wanting to assure her that her love could never be a burden. But his throat tightened, and he could only murmur, "I could never be sad for you." Behind him, Sarah stood still, shaking, her fingers clutching the pew's edge as if to brace herself. She longed to reach out to Nora, but fear of rejection held her back. Then, in a broken whisper, she said, "You don't have to choose, Nora. We can be a flock." Nora nodded, though her eyes still held questions, as if she struggled to believe she could love both without hurting either. Marcus looked at his daughter, his heart aching that she had carried this burden so long. He squeezed her hand, feeling her warmth, and knew he must learn to share her, even if it was hard. Sarah, quietly wiping her tears, finger trembling on the worn journal cover, as though it were the only bridge left to her daughter. In the silent church, the three stood, each carrying private wounds, yet united by a single hope, that love can heal and that they could become a flock, flying together into whatever trials lay ahead. Dear viewers, take a moment to relax or pour yourself a drink before the next twist of this story unfolds, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always wonderful to see you tuning in from around the world. Comment 1 if this story moved you, so we can keep bringing you more heartfelt tales. The journey of reconciliation between Marcus, Sarah, and Nora began in simple moments, where old wounds were soothed by love and patience. In their rented Boston apartment, Sarah, her hands clumsy and unaccustomed to kitchen work, stood beside Nora, attempting to make smiley-face toast. The 10-year-old girl, her curls in wild disarray, guided Sarah in placing jam for eyes. Yet both batches burned black, smoke billowing from the oven. Nora's clear laughter rang through the room, drawing Marcus from the sofa. He shook his head, his eyes sparkling, and all three laughed as though that awkward moment had undone an invisible knot. Sarah, ever tense from her past, felt her heart lighten, if only a little. She looked at Nora, her longing for closeness surging. Yet fear of rejection clenched her hand, her nails digging into her palm. One evening, beneath warm, golden light, Sarah sat beside Nora on the couch, the old leather-bound journal embossed with a seagull resting on her lap. She turned its yellowed pages, her voice trembling as she read the story of Lila the seagull, a tiny creature seeking her mother through perilous journeys. Sarah had written that tale while pregnant with Nora, a way to keep her child close, though she knew she would one day have to let go. Nora listened, her eyes bright. Then, suddenly she ran to her room and returned with an old drawing from 3 years before. The faded pencil sketch depicted a seagull beneath a clouded sky, the very image of Lila from the story. "I dream of this bird," she whispered, her voice hesitant. Sarah froze, tears spilling down her cheeks. She drew Nora into her arms, holding her tighter than she had dared, as if afraid the child might vanish. "You were always in my heart," she choked out, her voice breaking, "even when I wasn't there." Nora nestled against her, the warmth of her small body soothing Sarah's pain, yet awakening a new question. Did she deserve this love? Marcus, standing silently by the window, watched that moment, his heart torn. He had spent 10 years as Nora's father, sacrificing everything to give her a safe home. Seeing Sarah, he realized she was not only searching for Nora, but rediscovering herself. A mother once lost, now learning to walk the thorny path. He longed to shield Nora from pain, yet the child's trustful gaze at Sarah showed him she needed them both. He tightened his grip on her hand, trying to drown the fear of sharing Nora, the fear that his love might not suffice if she opened her heart to her mother. One night, Nora suddenly ran a high fever, her cheeks flushed, her breathing shallow. Marcus and Sarah stayed awake in turns, dabbing her forehead with cool cloths, the dim lamp casting worried shadows on their faces. Marcus, usually steadfast, felt helpless. Each small whimper from Nora felt like a blade to his chest. Sarah, seated by the bed, gently smoothed Nora's hair, her hands trembling as though making up for years lost. In the hush, Sarah bowed her head, her voice catching. "You gave up everything to be her father. I ran away." Her words were a confession, steeped in regret. Marcus met her eyes and softened. "You're here now," he said quietly. "That's what matters." His words, simple yet sincere, formed a bridge between two once strangers, now united by a single goal: Nora's happiness. Sarah wiped her tears, her trembling finger tracing the bed's edge as if to anchor herself in the present. She knew this journey would not be easy, that every step forward was a battle with her past. Marcus watched Nora drift to sleep and felt a flicker of hope. He understood that family is not only blood, but those who choose to stay, even when the road is rough. And Nora, half asleep, seemed to feel both their presences, her small hand clutching the silver seagull talisman. In the silent room, the three of them, each bearing their own wounds, began weaving a new bond, fragile, yet full of promise, like a flock of seagulls ready to take flight together. At the Boston airport, Marcus Kane stood before the departure gate, passport in hand, his heart heavy as if carrying an entire world. Beside him, Nora, the 10-year-old girl with tangled curls, gripped his hand, the silver seagull talisman at her throat gleaming, her eyes a mix of excitement and apprehension. They were preparing to return to Seattle, closing the turbulent chapter in Boston where Nora's past had been laid bare. Marcus squeezed Nora's hand, trying to conceal his unease. He had built a life for her since finding her in a cardboard box 10 years ago. But Sarah, her birth mother's abrupt return, had shaken his world. He yearned to board the plane and leave everything behind, yet his heart faltered, as if an invisible tether held him back. Before passing through security, Nora pressed a small gift into Marcus's hand. He opened it, and his breath caught. On notebook paper was a drawing of 3 seagulls flying in formation, crude pencil strokes, yet full of meaning. Below, Nora's trembling handwriting read, "You held me. Mom let me go, but I need both of you." The child's words were a blade, sharp and bittersweet, piercing straight to Marcus's heart. He looked at Nora and saw hope in her eyes, not fear. She did not want to choose, nor lose anyone. Her drawing was a silent plea, her way of voicing the love and pain of a small heart caught between 2 adults. Marcus clenched the paper, his nails digging into his palm, stifling the surge of emotion. Suddenly, Sarah appeared beyond the security gate, fragile in her thin coat, her deep blue eyes alight with determination and worry. She did not stop Marcus, nor did she plead. She simply waited for him to decide, entrusting everything to his heart. Marcus looked at her and, for the first time, did not see the girl who had abandoned Nora 10 years ago, but a mother learning to stay, step by step, day by day. Sarah bowed her head, her trembling fingers brushing her bag as she whispered, "I never stopped being her mother." Her words were a confession laden with remorse and longing. Inside Sarah, a silent battle raged. She knew she was undeserving of forgiveness, yet Nora's clear and trusting gaze gave her the courage to face her past, to hope for a second chance. Marcus met Sarah's eyes, his heart torn. He had spent a decade protecting Nora, sacrificing everything to give her a safe home. His fear of sharing his daughter, of his love not being enough, constricted his chest. But Nora's drawing of the 3 seagulls reminded him she needed both of them. He inhaled slowly, his gaze softening. "Nora doesn't have to lose anyone," he said quietly. "And I don't think we do, either." His words formed a bridge between 2 once strangers now united by a common goal. Sarah smiled, tears glittering in her eyes, and drew from her bag a silver seagull talisman matching Nora's. "For you," she whispered, "so we can always find each other." Marcus took it and fastened it around his neck, feeling the fragile yet powerful promise of a new bond linking 3 hearts. They stood there amid the airport's bustling crowd, but that moment felt set apart from the world. Marcus watched Nora, who toyed with her talisman, her innocent smile dispelling the darkness in his chest. He realized that family is not perfection, but those who choose to stay, even when the path is rough. Sarah wiped her tears, her fingers trembling as they clasped the talisman, feeling a spark of hope. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, each step a challenge to prove she was worthy. But Marcus's gaze, no longer cold but filled with trust, gave her the strength to carry on. Nora, sensing the change, looked up with a radiant smile. In the airport's quiet space, the three of them began a new journey, not as a perfect family, but as a flock of seagulls ready to soar together, no matter the challenges ahead. A year after those turbulent days in Boston, Marcus Kane stood in a small garage on Seattle's outskirts, his hands smeared with motor oil, his heart filled with a rare calm. He had opened the auto shop, naming it Kane and Wings, a simple title rich in meaning, a reminder of the journey he and Nora had traveled. Nora's mural adorned the wall, a flock of seagulls flying into a fiery sunset, crude pencil strokes, yet brimming with love. Marcus, once a lonely billionaire, now found purpose in busy days repairing engines and in Nora's laughter each afternoon. He gazed at the painting, his heart warm yet tinged with worry. Could he truly keep his promise and protect this little family forever? He clutched the silver seagull talisman at his throat, the gift from Sarah, a reminder that he was no longer alone. Nora, now 11, had grown with bright eyes and a generous heart. Once burdened by questions of origin, she now found joy in simple things. One day she brought home her school essay, neat handwriting on lined paper. Marcus and Sarah sat side by side reading. "My family isn't a straight flight. Dad found me in a box, Mom let me go so I could fly. But both came back. We're a flock, not perfect, yet we always fly together." Those words, plain yet profound, felt like a sweet blade cutting through Marcus's old scars. He looked at Nora, who toyed with her talisman, and felt pride mixed with fear. She had grown so much, yet could he and Sarah provide her a lasting home? Sarah, tears in her eyes, lightly touched the page, as if Nora's words proved she was forgiven, if only in part. That night, in the small apartment above the garage, the three gathered around the dinner table. Slightly cooled pizza lay between their laughter. Marcus watched Sarah, once a distant stranger, now awkwardly slicing her piece, her hair loose around her shoulders. She had abandoned her drifting life to stay, learning each day how to be a mother. Yet deep in her heart, fear still smoldered. She feared the day Nora might look at her with reproach, feared that the past would always cast a shadow. She clenched her hand beneath the table, nails biting her palm to stifle her unease. Nora, as carefree as ever, looked up with bright eyes. "We'll stay together forever, right?" she asked, her voice ringing with innocence. Marcus and Sarah exchanged a look, their hearts beating in unison. They clasped hands beneath the table and answered together, "Forever." Nora's radiant smile banished every doubt. In that moment, Marcus and Sarah felt they had found a safe harbor. The meal continued with chatter and laughter, yet in Marcus's heart a truth settled. Family isn't where you begin, but where you choose to land. It's where you face your fears and decide to stay. Sarah, watching Nora, realized a mother's love need not be perfect, only genuine. Nora, fingers wrapped around her talisman, seemed to sense the invisible bond tying the three of them together. Their story teaches us that family is a choice, the courage to forgive and start anew despite a scarred past. That love, however fragile, can become wings lifting us above life's trials. If only we dare to soar. Thank you for joining Marcus, Sarah, and Nora's journey. If it touched your heart, please subscribe to 30 Millionaire Stories, share your thoughts in the comments, and pass this video to loved ones in the US. We'd love to know where and when you're watching, and what moved you most. Your story might inspire more than you imagine. See you on the next adventure, where love and hope always find each other.